Good morning, everyone. It's Makeda Valletta, also known as the Renaissance Amazon. And I am about to go live on IG as well. Give me a moment. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's Makeda Valletta, also known as the Renaissance Amazon. And I am in Colombia, but today I want to talk about my experiences in Costa Rica. Okay. Costa Rica is a place that a lot of people talk about these days, and I spent a lot of time there, and I never did any videos really talking about my experiences. Probably because when I was doing my work in Costa Rica was around the time that I first started doing YouTube videos. Okay, so my very first time in Costa Rica was in 2006. I went with my childhood best friend, who she raved about the country, and that was my first time out of the country. Actually, was to Costa Rica. And I remember thinking it was beautiful, but it wasn't necessarily my cup of tea because, as you know, I'm always searching for dance, and Costa Rica doesn't have a strong music and dance tradition. So I remember going there. This is like in 2006. My best friend, it was like a she had said that she understood she had been there and tourists. And in 2006, it wasn't even a lot of tourists as compared to as there is now. Like a lot of Americans and Canadians that live in Costa Rica, it's so many, and they try so much to cater to Americans. But anyhow, I had a Facebook friend. You know, there's a class that I teach called Sensual Strength Training, and some of you may or may not know about class. But it's a class that I teach to women, and it involves working with 98s internally. So strengthening the vaginal muscles in the pelvic floor, getting control of the vaginal muscles, dances of the African diaspora that get women to connect to our hips and to control our hips because we store so much of our trauma here, and it's really important to be fluid. And the other part is teaching women how to strength train, why strength training is important. And I started teaching that class to women in 2007 in New York City. And I had a Facebook friend who was watching me, and she really wanted to work with me. But she says, since I can't afford to work with you myself, and I'm in another country, I would like to organize to bring you here to teach classes. So the very first time I went to Costa Rica was, to teach, was, it was summer. Sorry, I had to get my dates right. Summer of 2010. Okay, summer of 2010. Almost 10 years ago now. That's crazy. Okay, and when I first came, I came to San Jose, and I taught when I taught in Costa Rica, I would teach 4-day intensive. So it was 4 days, like 4 hours a day for 4 days straight. And I also taught about my men's class in Costa Rica in San Jose one time. My Kundalini strength training class for men. I also taught that in Costa Rica once, in San Jose. So yeah, I taught a group of women in San Jose. I was on the news, in the newspaper. Like I have pictures of newspaper articles, and there's the news clip is also on YouTube. But I was on the news there, and it was like this big deal. And I remember, you know, it was like the largest group of women I had ever taught. It was like 20 women or something like that. It was a lot. And there's part of the class was also drumming and stuff like that as well. And I remember there's so much that I learned from that trip, from working with those women. And I really need to finish my. Oh, hold on 1 second. 1 second. My IG ended. IG be tripping. Hold up. I feel like people out there in the IG world, the camera stopped. And so if you're listening to this conversation, you can go back and listen to the previous archive video, or you can also find it on YouTube at the Renaissance Amazon. The internet connection here is not that great. Okay. So yeah, there's so much I've learned from teaching those women that I need to put in my book that has been writing forever, but it's just like I have so much to do. But I remember um, those women taught me about working with obsidian eggs because I remember back then thinking that obsidian eggs were not good women to work with. It is a lot that I learned. I'm not going to get into that right now. So I taught in San Jose for a week, and I remember like my mom came to Costa Rica to join me, and she stayed at the hotel one day while I went to teach. And I remember when I came back, there was like this origami, like, bird that the maid had made out of the towel. She saw me in the news and she was like, raving about me. My mom was trying to understand, like, what is this big deal? Because, I mean, it was like this huge reception I wasn't expecting. Then after I left San Jose, which I'm not a big fan of San Jose, it's a dirty city, it's like a lot of pollution, worse than New York City, worse than any city I've been to in the United States. So it was very polluted. Then I went to the Caribbean coast, which was like 5 hours from San Jose via bus. And I taught in Puerto Viejo. Now, when I went to Costa Rica in 2006, I did go to the Pacific coast to a town called Samana, which I really liked. I went to the Pacific coast and I went to the Caribbean coast when I was in Costa Rica in 2006. I went to 3 different towns. But so this time I went to Puerto Viejo, and which is in Limon. And everybody tells you don't go to the Caribbean coast; it's dangerous. Most people I see that go to Costa Rica, they don't go to the Caribbean coast. And the Caribbean coast is my favorite part of Costa Rica because, sorry, um, and all the black people, the music and everything is the best where the black people are. So all the black people are on the Caribbean coast, and they descend from Jamaica and Trinidad, right? They weren't Costa Rica, from what I could tell from the research I've done. I don't think Costa Rica had a history of slavery, so they might have been one of the few countries that didn't have African slavery. So the black people who were in Costa Rica came from the Caribbean, and they were like second, third generation Costa Ricans. And you go over there, you see the Trinidadian flag, the Jamaican flag. They spoke a patois-ish Spanish. It wasn't patois, but it wasn't Spanish. If you called it either one, they would get upset. But it was like a mixture of like patois and Spanish, and I didn't understand them. And I remember going dancing, and it was like they went hard, and that's what I love. I love to be places where people go hard. I remember they were dancing hard to reggae and Caribbean music. A lot of them had never been to Jamaica or Trinidad, but they held on to their identity so bad. And Costa Rica did have a racist history where at one point the black people on the Caribbean coast were not allowed to leave the Caribbean coast. So I think that they kind of got this mentality of like, whatever, to the rest of the country. On the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica, the food is the best to me. I remember not really loving the food in Costa Rica. Now, it might have gotten better since the last time I was there. Last time I was in Costa Rica, I think it was 2015. And I taught an intensive there at Pakistani. So I went there a lot. I went there a lot from 2010 to 2015. But my first time there was 2006, okay? So I remember like the food in the Caribbean coast was the best. But I found out that on the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica, they cooked with MSG and like, a lot of the food wasn't as good as one may think. And I'm going to do a more in-depth video on that on my other page, The Body Scientist 81. I'm going to get into the food systems in Costa Rica. I'm going to get into the food systems in Medellin and Cali from what I'm observing and researching. I'm going to do some videos, a series of videos on that on my YouTube page, The Body Scientist 81. So be sure to follow that so you can learn. But I just know that for Costa Rica, even though, I was in the jungle and I'm looking at monkeys swing from the trees and you hear the monkeys and you're in the bush, it was still a lot of processed foods, And I remember thinking that Costa Rican food was kind of bland, except for the Caribbean coast. I remember thinking that the culture was kind of bland, but the indigenous culture, like a lot of Central and South America, is intact. A lot of indigenous groups are intact, and they have their drums. And I remember when I went to Puerto Viejo too, I was greeted by a whole bunch of women, and I remember these women had tears in their eyes. I remember them saying to me, "We've been waiting for you. Like, we've been waiting for you. This is what we need." Like, they were so receptive in a way that I had never experienced, and I was like, "Wow." So I'm over here thinking that Costa Rican women, because I went there to teach Costa Rican women, not Americans. Like a lot of times you have Americans who do stuff in Costa Rica, but it is all for Americans. So they go to Costa Rica, all these Americans come to Costa Rica, they teach Americans in Costa Rica. I was teaching Costa Ricans, ticas, in Costa Rica, okay? So, and I remember walking into the store, and this woman recognized my face, and she started crying. And my mom was with me. She started crying, she gave me a hug, and she was just like, you have no idea how bad I needed this, and like how bad I need the work that you teach. And she couldn't afford it even, she couldn't afford it. It wasn't that expensive. She couldn't afford it, and like I allowed her to do some type of exchange and take the class because she had so many tears. And I was just so surprised at like this kind of reception. Like, wow. And if that's not confirmation that this is where I need to be, then I don't know what is. Um, and so like Costa Rica was cool because a lot of I've traveled all over the country, but a lot of the structures in Costa Rica, at least how I remember it since I've been there, since I haven't been there in about 4 years, but the structures in Costa Rica, a lot of the houses and stuff were just like outside. Like you'd be in a house, but there's no walls, and it was so safe. You'd be in a house, there's no walls, or the ceiling was like made of, I don't know what, not bamboo, but some type of leaves, I don't know. But you're in the rainforest, so it rains like the world's coming to no end, and it did not penetrate the ceiling. So however the things were built was like, based off of probably indigenous methods. And I love the fact that you really had air conditioning. You always had fresh air. But hot water was hard to come by. And that might have changed now because more and more Americans go in there. But I remember that was one of the things that was hard for me was that, they didn't have hot water. Even here in Colombia, sometimes you have to ask. Anytime you come to a country like this, like the Caribbean, Central America, South America, I think it's always good to ask, like, if they have hot water because you'd be surprised. Like, you'll get some places only cold water. I don't know about you, but I can't take a cold shower. Okay. So that experience, okay, so that was summer 2010. I even remember like kind of falling in love with this girl. That was like a magical trip because there was this woman I knew from Atlanta who, I don't know, me and her like kind of fell in love like in a night, and we had this connection, and I didn't even think I could fall in love with a woman, but I kind of did. And so that was quite interesting. And the memories of that is like remembering like a school crush or something. The memories are so good. Like I wish I could kind of go back to that because it felt good. But anyhow, oh yeah, because the girl that had come from Atlanta, the woman who had come from Atlanta, she had taken my class in Atlanta that I taught in 2009. So I've been teaching my sensual strength training class since 2007. I've taken a break. I haven't taught it in a couple of years, but I think it may be time to bring it back. Anyhow, I then was asked to come back to Costa Rica fall of 2010. Okay, so there was a different group of women who I can't remember where these women got my information from. These women took one of my workshops the first time I went, and they wanted to bring me back. So fall of 2010, I went back to Costa Rica to teach for an entire month, right? And I went to 4 different parts of the country. I taught in San Jose again, and this time I stayed on a farm. I stayed on a farm like 20 minutes outside of San Jose up in the mountains, and it was cold. And of course, they didn't have any heat. Of course, they didn't have any hot water. And but I was able to get raw milk constantly, raw milk, raw cheeses, because I was on this farm. And we would drive down into the city for me to teach. It was like 4 or 5 consecutive days. And I also taught my men's class that time. Then I went back to the Caribbean coast of Puerto Viejo, and I taught again. And then I went to some place called San Isidro. I'm trying to remember all the names of the towns because it's been so long, San Isidro, which was close to the Pacific, but I remember it was like South Pacific part of Costa Rica, I think. It wasn't on the coast though, but it was close to the coast. And it was in like up in the mountains, and it was close to one of the cleanest water supplies, one of the cleanest rivers in the country. And with that class that I taught, there were women there from all over the world. Okay, like as I'm talking, I'm also thinking in Spanish. I'm like, so funny. Okay, there were women there from Brazil, Venezuela, I think Dominican Republic, Argentina. There were women. There are people who moved to Costa Rica from all over the world, not just America and Canada. So there was a lot of international people in that class. And the woman that hosted it was a woman, an American woman from like Colorado or something. She had been in the Olympics for one of those winter sports. And that was like an isolated area. You know, I'm trying to remember all these different places that I taught that I can't remember. I used to have this direct in my head of the towns and dates and everything, and now it's starting to um, go away. But I know that, yeah, that trip, fall 2010, I went to the Caribbean coast, Pacific coast, the middle of the country, San Jose. It was like 4 different places. Then I came back again in the spring of 2011. Okay, I got brought back again, and this time I saw a woman who I had seen the year before, and some of them, a lot of them had, you know, left their husbands and broken up with their husbands. Like a lot had changed, right? So there was a woman who took my workshop when I came back. No, there was a woman who took my workshop when I came there in the fall of 2010. She had a baby and was saying that she didn't want to have any more kids anytime soon. And she was working with the eggs to get her libido back because the eggs, because a lot of women after giving birth can lose their libido and they don't want to be touched. And I remember that she started working with the eggs after taking my class and telling me she didn't want kids for another 3 years. And guess what happened? When I came back in spring of 2011, she was knocked up again. And I felt kind of guilty and bad. But a lot of it is because the eggs helped to bring her libido back, you know. And so when I came back spring 2011, and I remember staying up in some town. I don't remember what the name of the town was. It might have been, maybe it was San Isidro, actually. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think that was San Isidro. And the other, yeah, it's just all these different places. But I know that I've stayed on the coast by the beach and I've stayed in the middle of the country up in the hills. You know, I've been on the Pacific coast, I've been in the Caribbean coast. The thing about Costa Rica is that it's really, really safe. You know, it's peaceful. Um, La pura vida, you know, is the Costa Rican saying. But I remember just thinking it was boring, you know, because I like to dance. I like countries with strong Afro indigenous culture. Costa Rica didn't have that. And back then I kept thinking, I just want to go to Cuba. I just want to go to Colombia. I just want to go to Cuba. I just want to go to Colombia. And I just kept thinking that ever since, you know, that has been possible. I haven't thought about Costa Rica, but now I'm like, maybe I should consider going back and checking and seeing how it was. But I did have friends there. You know, I had friends in Costa Rica, in San Jose, the Caribbean coast. But in 2015, I went to Costa Rica for the last time. This time it was something that I organized. Actually, 2014, I taught something that my Sensual class, and it was I organized it, and there was a lot of Americans that came to Costa Rica. 2015, I did a workshop in Costa Rica with Pakazani, and I talk about her all the time. You can find her on YouTube and Instagram at Indigimama. She's a Mexican woman that I studied with in Long Beach, California, and she is what I call a womb chiropractor. You know, she can palpate a woman's organs and a man too, but mostly works with women. She can palpate the organs and see if the uterus is in the right place and feel where the ovaries are and the bladder and everything. And if it's not in the right place, she can move it into the right place. So she's also an herbalist, and so she and I did an intensive in Costa Rica summer 2015. That was the last time I was there. And I remember, and I was on the Caribbean coast of Puerto Viejo. But when I went back to Puerto Viejo summer 2014, I remember being told that all the people I knew over there were gone. Like they had all divorced their husbands and left and gone someplace else. And a lot of them divorced their husbands because they didn't have good husbands. Their husbands might have been abusive. They weren't being good to them. And working with the egg gave them the empowerment, I guess, to step into their power and not allow that, you know, not allow the abuse, not allow themselves to stay in a bad relationship where they're not wanted. whether or not loved and treated the way they should be treated. And so perhaps that could have something to do with my strength and my non-ability to deal with bullshit. Self-love is important because being in a relationship is never more important to me than having my strength and my sanity. A lot of people, I feel like, stay in relationships just to stay in them because they're afraid of being alone, they're afraid of being single, or they care what people think. But I felt like the egg really helped a lot of women to step into their power. And I really started to experience that in Costa Rica, working with Costa Rican women. And I remember, those were long days because we had to teach in Spanish, and some things I can't say in Spanish, so there would be a translator who sometimes would translate some things. And so to teach 4 hours all day and have to go back and forth with translating and stuff. But there's so much I learned from those experiences. And this book that I've been saying I was going to write for years needs to get done. And I feel like this year, as I spend time in Colombia, I'm really going to focus back on that and start to get this book together. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say about Costa Rica. So, and no disrespect to Costa Rica, all the times that I've said that I feel like Costa Rica is boring, no offense, it's just not really my cup of tea. But Costa Rica showed me a lot of love, and I taught a lot of really important classes there, worked with really important women, made some really good connections, and learned a lot. Even things I'm not sharing in this video because they will be in my book. So I just wanted to talk about that this morning because I feel like I hadn't really ever talked about my work in Costa Rica and what I was doing there. And I think it's powerful when the people bring you, like it wasn't me saying, I'm going to take my group of Americans over here and teach and do this retreat. They're super expensive. And I think it's time for me to do another sensual strength training intensive. And they could be done in the United States, but thinking about doing another sensual strength training intensive. At first, I wanted to do it in Cuba, but that could be a bit tough. So maybe Colombia, I have to find the right place to do it. But it may be time to bring it back because it's helped a lot of women tremendously, And then we have the class for men. I have my class for men, my Kundalini strength training class that I find men are not as class oriented. So I tend to work with men one-on-one, or I have a video class for men. So for the men that are interested, just hit me up, or you can check my YouTube videos on my Kundalini strength training class. So the women's class is sensual strength training, and the men's class is Kundalini strength training. Okay, yeah, I think I've said all I need to say, and I'm kind of sleepy. I need my caffeine. Didn't have caffeine yesterday. Need caffeine today. I hope the point of this video came across well. And thanks for listening. Have a good day, people.